Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and today is the final day of us looking into the Unity Fantasy Games and Game Dev Assets Humble Bundle, an amazing deal running on Humble for Unity developers or other developers, to be honest. There's some nice content in there that could work in any engine, but obviously this is a Unity bundle, and over the last couple of weeks I've been looking at assets to let you know if it was a good idea to pick up this bundle or not. Well, today is the last video I'm going to do on that subject, because today is also the last day of the bundle. By the time I get this video up, produced, and published, you should probably have just over 1 day remaining to check this guy out. And we've been going through these bundles quite thoroughly for what is in it and if it's a good pickup for you. So you'll notice we checked out Odin, a serializer in the past, RPG Builder, Octave 3D, and Node Canvas. And today we are going to look at the last most requested items. So we're going to take a look at the Low Polygon Tools, which was a bit of a trap because it's not one, it's 4 assets. And we're also going to take a quick look at the often requested Bakery. Without further ado, let us jump in. All right, so the first one we're going to look at is Bakery. Now, what is Bakery? Bakery is a GPU-based light mapper. There are some caveats with Bakery that you need to know right up front. First off, NVIDIA only. Second off, Windows only. So if you are on a Mac or you are running an AMD GPU, Bakery will not work for you. But if you are otherwise engaged and you are needing a GPU light mapper, well, it could be a good pickup. And you're thinking to yourself, hey, wait a minute, isn't there a light mapper built into Unity? No. There was Enlighten. It is being replaced down the road with an in-house developed solution. But right now, users are sort of left hanging in the winds after version 2020 LTS. So there are definitely a lot of people looking for a light mapping solution. And for, what are we looking at normally? 55 bucks. Now it is in this bundle for like 25 bucks and you get all that other stuff for free. It could be a good time to pick up a GPU light mapper. So what exactly is a GPU light mapper? Well, what it does is it calculates all the lighting in the scene and bakes it into lighting maps, which can be used in mobile games. And so in that case, in order to use the results, you don't need to be NVIDIA. You can run this on consoles, you can run this on the Switch, you can run this on mobile, you can run this on desktop, AMD or NVIDIA, whatever. It's one of those things to be aware of. The requirement here, the limitations of Bakery only refer to the development tools. So what it does, it bakes these light maps in the scene, so you get really good shadows and details that aren't calculated at real time. So how does this work? Well, first off, you install and include the Bakery add-on, and then what you're going to notice is the Bakery add-on has a number of different light options. So we can come up here and we can add directional lights, skylights, point lights, volume, lighting volumes, area lights, etc. to the scene. And you can notice here, this is the traditional Sponza level. It is one of the examples that is available, and it's got a number of lights defined, including IES, which is like an international standard for how to define lights, which are defined here in these IES files. Or we can do things like point lights in the scene. The lighting results, the shadow map will work with the default shader material, by the way. Plus, you can also add, they have their own shader material as well that works with their more advanced light mapping setups. But you see here, there are a number of different lights that kind of correspond to all the standard light types you would find in Unity. And they can also coexist beside Unity lights, by the way. So you don't get double lighting as a result of that. And then you've also got things like lighting probes that you could put in place. And there you can see the lighting probes in action. And then when you are ready to go and you want to go ahead and render your light maps, it's a matter of basically going Bakery, render light maps. And here you've got a couple of options available. You got a ton of options available. Behind the scenes, it uses the optics decoder. You can choose the different versions, or you can use open image denoise. Denoisers basically take the result of the render and kind of make it less noisy. Actually, that's kind of the exact premise behind it. Another thing you will notice about Bakery is it has RTX support. So I could come on down here and turn RTX support on if you're running a 2060 or better GPU, which should speed up the result. You've got control over things like how many bounces for global illumination calculations. That will result in a longer render, but a better result if you run that. To a certain degree. You can choose how high of a resolution of shadow maps to go ahead and make. And then you've got a number of options here. You can go into experimental settings if you so wish. You could do various different rendering options, so full lighting, new shadow masks, and so on. You've got different directional options. Now, some of these may require you to use their shader as opposed to the built-in shader. If you don't really care about baking in normal maps, you don't really need that. And then we've got not really much else here. There's some, you do need to have UV UVs on all objects that are going to get light mapped. Another neat thing you could do is actually come over here. So if you want to debug how your scene is going to look, you can do a checker preview, and it will show how the scene is going to take light. So you can see how the surfaces are set up, how the UVs are in each particular case before you go ahead and do a render. And then once you are ready and good to go, you can render light probes, reflection probes, and the skybox probe if you so wish. Click the render, and it will basically, the first time you run that, it will auto-detect your settings if you so wish to do so. It'll do things like determine if RTX will work, what denoiser to work best with, and so on. And then you can save that result out. Otherwise, boom, you just go ahead, got to save your scene, and then it calculates things. You're going to notice here from the last time I rendered, the last bake took 7 minutes, 57 seconds. So about 8 minutes to do the Sponza scene that you see here in front of you. And that there is Bakery. Now, again, the fact that Enlighten is kind of like unsupported now, and who knows when Unity is going to get a new GPU-based light mapper solution in place, this could be a certainly good option for you, especially given the fact that it is so incredibly on sale. So that is Bakery, a GPU-based light mapping. Next one we're going to look at is Low Poly Tools. To be honest, I kind of missed this one in the bundle, and I didn't cover it earlier because I thought it was actually a Polygon art asset pack. I didn't really catch the tools part of this, and this one is a bit of a pain in the butt because what you got to do is you redeem this using organizations, add it to your account, but then what you got to do is go to the Unity store and you pick up 4 individual assets. They will all be free for you once you have bought this bundle, but this bundle is actually nothing. So if I go back into Unity and I go to the package manager and I search for Low Poly, you're going to find Low Poly Tools Bundle. You're going to find this actually, let's see, 3 kilobytes in size. And really, it's just this message basically saying you've got access to all of these other things. So you got to visit each one of these pages to go ahead and download the other assets. Once you do, they're all available free on the asset store. So we've got things like Poseidon, available right here. And we're going to look at all 4 of these assets very quickly. I don't want this video to be extremely long, so we're just going to show you a very fast example of what each one is all about. And what they're about is kind of low polygon world building. So we've got the Polaris has the Jupiter, Polaris, and Poseidon. Jupiter is procedural skies. Polaris is for doing low polygon terrain. And then Poseidon is water. And then the other thing we get in there is texture graph. I'll start with texture graph because I find it probably the most underwhelming of the options here. So let's open up the sample. And what you will find is, come on. In the sample, we have a sample material applied to this plane, so there's not a whole lot going on here. This oddly named sphere, as you can tell, clearly that is a sphere with a plane mesh attached to it. Well, this guy is using a texture graph material. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at how texture graph works. You open this up, you'll see the material in action. You can also go ahead and create new ones, basically over here, texture graph, new graph. And this is your end result. Now, if you're regular to this channel, this is going to look a lot like some other tools I have covered in the past, because that's basically what it is. Now, this is also a beta, so this one isn't fully done. It'll be interesting to see what it turns into. But what it is essentially a procedural node-based or graph-based texture maker. So this is making using a graph to make grass. This is like Material Maker, although to be honest, I like Material Maker better than this program, at least at this point in time. But what you're using is a series of nodes. They all come together, and in the end, they output to one of 2 things. One is straight out output, and here is straight out normal map output. And then you can also do an output to real-time output, and have that show up in the scene as you are modifying things. So basically, it is a procedural texture creator using a series of nodes. So you do things like, here you can see the different nodes that are available. So we've got things for merging channels, creating Perlin noise, a number of filters you can apply to things, shapes and so on. Of course, you can also bring in just a straight out texture, like an image texture could be one of your inputs, a loading texture, for example. So I could do something like load a texture in. Come on. I also find the performance can be a little bit odd. So again, this one is tagged as beta. So here we go. We load the texture in. If I select, I come over here. I can pick the texture. Come on, load up. So again, this one is the most beta-y and I find, again, the performance can be a little bit on the frustrating side. And to be honest, I would take this moment in time to recommend, if you haven't already checked out Material Maker, I've done 3 or 4 videos on the channel already. It's updated constantly. It is free and open source software, and it does everything that this does, and it actually does it a little bit better. You know what? I'm going to give up on this portion of the demo because this is just, it's taking way too long. And I find, again, this product is beta. It's the least impressive as part of the bundle. So let me just exit out of here. So for some reference in terms of the quality here, we're at minute 20. It did finally populate with the selection box here, but there is definitely a problem with their script. So yeah, all right. So moving on then. So texture graph, by far and away the weakest part of the bundle. Then we're getting into the 3 things that actually make the most sense. So we got Jupiter. This one is probably as straightforward as they get. It is a procedural sky. So we're going to see the day-night cycle. This one is going to showcase automatically what can happen in this setup. So here you can see it is all about creating this sky right here. So you can see it's controlled by a couple of scripts here. This one is set on an automatic day-night cycle, so it's going to switch between the two. So it's the nice thing about this, all of these things have an art style or an aesthetic that is suitable to a low polygon or a lower polygon style game. So you can see here, normally what you could do is control things like the sky color, stars, and so on. But this is actually being controlled by the day-night cycle script, which is also included, as you can see here. And here you got a number of different control points. You can change the time, which is currently set to automatic, which is why it's like flipping through things. If you wanted, I could make that manual and see here we got between the, I guess I got to release to see the difference. So you get that back to auto. You got control over how the sky is shown, how the stars are shown, the sun, the moon, and so on. So pretty straightforward pack on the whole. If you need to add procedural skies, especially if you're working on a lower polygon style game, that is what Jupiter is all about. Next up, we get into Polaris. This one is a terrain engine. Let me just go grab a sample for it. Samples, let's grab their sample, scenes. And this here is demo 2. Now, what this is all about basically is for creating low polygon style terrains and populating them with say objects like tree stumps and so on. So if you've worked with the terrain engine, you've got no doubt an idea of what's going on here. You can see how it's implemented. So we got terrain is being created like so. You can actually have the terrain created in, you can have it create multiple different parts, by the way. So you can have multiple LODs, multiple different chunks of terrain, and they will all work seamlessly together. But the heart of this is actually in your tools. And you got a bunch of different tools here. You've got some for painting directly on the surfaces, and then you've got some for doing mass stamping. So you see here these stamplings, the texture stamping is used for populating the textures in the world. These are basic, oops, I did not mean to click off there. This is for doing, like, you know, at X elevation, it's grass, at Y elevation, it's tundra, and so on. So basically create the different layers like so, and then set the heights that they will be drawn at, and then it will stamp the world accordingly. We've also got tools for doing foliage stamper throughout the world. This is for putting the trees and populating the trees in the world, so you can create a couple different tree definitions and have it basically stamp them all across the world. You set like how many of them to go ahead and do. It will support billboarding automatically and so on. You can also manually paint things in the world, so you can select the trees and actually start drawing them in the world like this if you'd rather do it by hand as opposed to painting them using the stamper. So the stamper, I think of it as a way of populating the entire map, whereas the painters are for doing things individually. And then probably the heart of things right here is this, the geometry and texture painter. And this is what you use to edit your world. You've got your brush control over here. So we see here we've got moods like elevation and various different brushes to work with. So if we want to have like a nice smooth progression, we can use that guy right there, elevation mode. And there you see. So you can see the background, you can see it moving up and so on. Yeah, so basically you start painting your world. You're going to notice as this gets higher, oh, do I need to reapply? I might need to reapply the texture painter. Oh, let's go see if that's required. So texture stamper, we'll go back over to it and apply. Yeah, so you need to reapply it for it to take into effect the change in your elevation. So if you wanted, like this example here, I can change it so that these kick in at different elevations. You've got control smoothly over how they transition between one and the other. But you'll notice we're getting to more of a rock as you go higher. You can have sandy desert kind of in the middle, grass at the bottom, and so on. And that essentially is your Polaris. That's all about creating low polygon textured landscapes. Next up, we're going to take a look at the other two. So we've got, no, we already looked at the sky. So we've done Jupiter, we've done Polaris. So really all we have left is Poseidon. Poseidon being the god of the sea. It's pretty probably obvious what this one is going to be about, but let's go take a look. So here we see one of the demos. Now the weird thing is I see the weird performance of this one when running in the editor in the past, especially when I do, I think it was this demo. But this, as you can see, is if you're going for that art style and you're already doing your low polygon terrain, you're probably going to want to do some low polygon water too. But you notice something? It only updates when I'm working with the scene. I don't know if that's a bug or not, but I've had some weird performance issues with this guy, but it is exactly what you think it is. So here you can see it is a simple buoy controller going on here, creating the calm water that you see in action before us. And that is what this guy is all about. Let's go look at a different example. This one is more of a river example. So you can see here, low polygon art style, but you've got wake where it's colliding with the shore. So let's go take a look at the implementation. So it's calm water, and here you can see it's controlled via a script that is attached as part of Poseidon. You got control over the time, ripple effects, the wave effects, how much light is absorbed, how much foam to create, and so on. And again, it only updates in the editor when I'm moving the camera, which seems like a bit of a bug, to be honest. But you can see how these things obviously would work together. One is a low polygon sky system, one is a low polygon terrain system, and one is a low polygon water system. And if you mix this in with something like the Cinti assets, it would actually make for a nice mix, a nice meshing of styles. Because the thing is, you've got tools like this built into Unity for creating water, for creating terrain, and so on, and dozens of plugins. But the thing is, not many of them are low polygon. They're not going to look good in a low polygon environment. And that's what this one is all about. So you can see how it collides with objects in the world and so on, and it generates the results you see here. You've got some special effects that you can add in, but you need to install the post-processing stack v2. Again, I don't understand why I need to be moving the camera for it to update, but otherwise you can see what these are all about. I also believe this train was created using their low polygon, what was that one? Not Poseidon, so that one was Polaris. Yeah, so using Polaris to create the train, and then you use Poseidon to populate it with water. So that is what is at the core of this pack. Head on back over here. So the low polygon tools, you buy this one, but then you have to come to each individual tool. So Polaris, which we saw in action, is for creating the terrain. Tons and tons and tons of features in there. You got spline tools for creating roads and ramps, stamping tools for putting objects into the scene. We've got a number of painters and so on going on. So that is the low polygon terrain. That's Polaris. And then we've got the Poseidon, which is the water we just saw in action, and then finally Jupiter, the sky. So definitely went with the Roman theme, and then they've got texture graph thrown in. Texture graph is the one I would probably ignore, and if you like the idea of texture graph, go check out Material Maker. It's a much better tool, and it's completely free, and it's also open source, built on top of the Godot game engine. And then finally, as a small bit of bonus content, we're going to take a very quick look at uMMORPG, which is also included in this particular bundle. So that is this guy right down here. If you're wondering, this one is basically a remastered version. There is another version in the store called the Classic Edition. They remastered it to have more of a component-based architecture. Here you can see the sample environment for it. This one is for creating MMO-style games. Now, we're not talking M as in massive. We're talking M as in, I don't know, massive? We'll go with that. So this is for creating zones and worlds and NPCs and all of that stuff. So everything you'll see. So we got weapon mount on this character. This character has a number of scripts attached to it. What uMMORPG is basically, first off, it is a, you can kind of think of it as a sample game with all of the scripts you need to make your own MMORPG. It uses something called Mirror on the back end for the data work. You shouldn't really have to do any networking work to make this actually work for you. So you basically just focus on creating your game. So it's sort of like a template and all the scripts you need to make your own RPG style game. So you can see here, we've got scripts like monsters and combat and mana, and on and on and on it goes. So inventory and skills and so on. It's a very component-based engine. Let's go over here, take a look at just, for example, the scripts that are available. They've got an absolute ton of them. So that's essentially what you are buying here. You're buying a game that has been implemented, and what you would do is mod this into your own title. It's not really a game engine in a way. It's more like a game reference and then all of the scripts you need. So if you, for example, you need to implement aggro, you've got aggro abilities here. Then you've got some, I think there's some, no, actually there's no editor extensions here. But you've got NPC stuff, skill stuff, character stuff, and so on. Plus, it handles the networking and multiplayer side of things. But you're kind of going to still have to figure things out on your own. Just one of those things that you should definitely be aware of. If you want to grab the documentation, it is available at that Google Docs link. I don't know why it isn't available directly right here, but this is sort of, again, kind of a template for creating your own MMORPG style game. Again, using something called Mirror on the back end for the networking side of things. And if you can figure out from the reference how to make your own title, this could be a definite nice starting point for you. But that's essentially what uMMORPG is. It's basically, again, a downloadable implementation of a slice of an MMORPG, and then a ton of the scripts that you would possibly need. So let's go take a look at their description page here. Publisher Unity. All right. So here we go. You're going to see here they implement lots of stuff. So the networking is all done on the back end. Again, it uses Mirror for the high level networking and KCP for the low end. It's extensible. There is documentation available online if you want to check it out. You see things like it's got monsters, NPCs, scriptable items and quests, mounts and pets, portals, parties, crafting, items, safe zones, databases, SQLite on the back end, by the way, login server, security implemented, and so on. So all of the things that you would need to implement in your own RPG, MMORPG, are implemented here. Just do be aware you are going to have to really dig into the source code to figure out how this one works. It's not like an MMORPG creator kind of program. This is more of a reference example that you could modify to make your own game out of that implements all of the common features that you would need to implement your own MMORPG. And it's kind of funny because it used to be like a running joke, like, oh, I'm a single developer and I want to create an MMORPG. It's like, yeah, okay, that's going to work. But now using something like this, as long as you set your scope appropriately, it's quite possible. But do be aware you're going to have to dig into the code. There are something like 10,000 lines of code in place. And there is a Discord community behind this one if you want to go ahead and check it out. So it wasn't a re-architected version. So I did cover MMORPG in the past. I'm sure I had covered it. But this remaster version it's now component-based architecture and has a character controller movement script in there. And then a couple of other improvements across the board. So again, it's basically a reference implementation of an MMO. So if that's what you're going for, it could be a useful one to pick up, especially because it's normally $80. And once again, this entire bundle, this entire thing is $25. By the way, if you're still here and you're not a Unity developer, wow, first off, good job. But the thing to notice here is things like this. These are just straight out assets. These can be used in any game engine you want. You're going to have to jump through a couple more hoops. But this one, they're just generally they're FBX files or audio file. This one. Those can all be used in whatever environment you wish. This one here. So if you want to start pulling the things out, definitely there's some stuff here for non-Unity developers as well, including 2 video games. And that is it. That is the end of my coverage of this bundle. That is the end of the bundle. So we've been doing this for over an hour now. So you're going to have about 1 day left to pick up this bundle if you are interested. By the way, if you do use my link, you have the option of directing a portion to support Game from Scratch, which thank you so much if you do. To the non-Unity developers, I'm sorry about the amount of Unity coverage on this channel as of late. It's just the side effect of this bundle. The good news is the bundle ends today or tomorrow. The bad news is there's another bundle coming after. And stay tuned for coverage for it. So if you are a Unity developer, it has been like Christmas all month, and it is going to keep getting better. So let me know what you think of this bundle. Let me know what you think of all of the assets in it. So far we covered off pretty much everything. Odin, Bakery, RPG Builder. We have covered Zamba courses in the past, by the way. Octave 3D, Node Canvas, uMMORPG very briefly, and then, of course, the Low Poly Tools today. And we also featured the the dark fantasy gigantic environment in our coverage of Octave 3D. So if you want to see that in action, that is available there as well. Hope I covered everything you were possibly interested in, answered all of your questions about should you pick up this bundle. The only thing I can say now is you got 24 hours, so if you want to get it, go get it. You're running out of time. And stay tuned, there is going to be another bundle, I think tomorrow, but it might be the day after. So yeah, very busy time. Let me know what you think. Comments down below, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.